Hey guys, if it's Thursday, it's the Raymond Show. So here we go. Let's get into it. On Tuesday, I showed you what I've been up to working with the Nikon Z6. And today I'm talking Sony, specifically the Sony A7R3 and the pre-release version of the 24mm f1.4 G Master lens. So before I talk about the gear, and this is not a full review of either one, Leigh has one upcoming, but I do want to talk to you about the circumstances behind Leigh having the A7R3 in her hand and me too in that 24mm. Sony worked with a company called Pixel Shift to get Leigh, myself, and others to Sedona, Arizona for an epic weekend trip. For Leigh and I, it was a short car trip, but other press folks came in from all over. They're all linked down in the description of this video. Now, Leigh had the camera for a whole month in advance. I just got handed one the day of the event, and Leigh wasn't sharing. So literally the first time I was using it was at the event. Now, frankly, regarding the Sedona event, I really didn't know what to think going in. I've got a new role here on this channel 2 days a week, and I've never been to a press event like this before. Leigh obviously has more face time here on the channel and is more recognizable to the other media who are present. I was very self-conscious and I was prepared to really feel like a fish out of water. Okay, now here's the emotional part. The other press members present embraced Leigh and I. I don't mean just metaphorically, I mean there was actually hugging. It was the most non-stop, upbeat 48 hours of my life. Leigh is actually putting together a highlight reel of the entire trip that you'll see very soon. Now, I did mess up a key setting when I was shooting B-roll with this guy here. And more on that in the member portion today because it's just really embarrassing.
To see Raymond's weekly show for members in its entirety, click the join button below. If you don't see a join button, there's a link in the description. Then you'll see all of the member exclusive content in the community tab.
And there's a lesson in there too about how not to be the B-roll guy who messes up a key setting. So some tips for that coming up in the member portion today. I'll send you all a shirt that says learn from Raymond's mistakes. I won't actually send you that shirt, so don't look in the mail, but I should. Let's get down to the gear and my own unique experiences with it. Leigh's currently creating a comprehensive review of the A7R3. So let's just call this Raymond's first impressions. This is not a review of the camera or that 24mm lens. For one, I'm not very familiar with Sony's layout and thought process, but the A7 has a shutter button, so I knew I'd feel somewhat at home, and I really did. It helped that Leigh's been using the camera for about a month, so I did periodically come to her to get a quick knowledge boost. I tried not to annoy her too much. There was hiking, which the 24mm is absolutely fantastic for. There was astrophotography, which the 24mm is fantastic for. There was a life-changing balloon ride, which the 24mm is fantastic for. Ted?
Yes.
Are we doing this or what?
Oh, we're doing this.
We're doing this.
We are doing this.
Oh my God. Have you ever done this before?
No, ever. Have you?
Me neither. First time.
Jose's done this. He's a pro.
Jose Francisco.
No.
First time?
Yeah, first time as well.
There's a first time for everything. And this is one of those times. And even more landscape photography, which the 24mm is fantastic for.
Okay, Ted, we were on opposite sides. So how did it go
It
for
was
you
pretty
over
good.
there? You liked it?
Was it? Yeah, that was amazing, actually.
Would you do that again?
Can we?
In a set, like right now?
Yeah. Fire it back up.
I loved it too. I'm terrified of heights, but I had a good time.
You know, I am too, but the funny thing is, like, if I had been on the edge of a building that high, yeah, the vertigo would have been too much. But there's something about it's so smooth and how it moves, and
I heard it's like a hammock, it's like a hayride. It really is. You just happen to be way high up in the air. Cool.
And apparently, if you have enough money, you can do this every day.
Yeah, that's the new goal.
That's right. Goals. Stan, goals.
Goals.
Stan Moniz took us from 0 to 100 on astrophotography. And what's awesome about Stan, besides his intense love of action and astro, is that he helped us set our cameras. And that's gold. But then he encouraged us to freestyle from there, reminding us there's no rules. He got us benchmarked, baselined, and then we were free to experiment from there, which was great because we had a really good starting point. Oh, and I got to unleash my inner model for some work that Leigh did when she was working with both the Alpha 7 and the super lightning fast Alpha 9, which I didn't get a chance to shoot with. I wish I had. There just wasn't time. Now, there is a learning curve when you pick up a Sony Mirrorless if you're coming from another brand. What I found, though, is the basics are the basics. And then when you want to do something unique or use a special feature, there's always a way to do it, both in the menus and by assigning a custom function button. For each individual unique photographer there was a way to set up the camera to their exact liking. And that's really what I took away most about Sony's philosophy. It's about you and how you like to shoot, not having to adapt yourself for how they want you to shoot. So there are more options. The menus are more in depth, but the customization for you is absolutely incredible. The other thing that I learned, and I'll be first to admit, I had some misconceptions about this whole event going in. They got these various press folks together, put the cameras in our hands, and they let us do our thing. They organized the various events, but no one, and I mean no one, tried to influence any of us in any way. They didn't even approach it or really consider it. They were there if we had questions. They totally get it when it comes to working with YouTubers and just letting them do their thing. There was a surprise benefit to being around some of the best. You learn, and you learn at 100 miles an hour. Cameras and laptops were spread out everywhere in the house. When someone was editing images, 2 or 3 people were watching and learning. I watched people use Lightroom and Capture One like they were conducting an orchestra on their laptops. Just by watching other people, great, experienced people, I came home and my modest editing skills are like 1,000 times better. Ted Forbes went all in with a full spectrum camera that he talked about on his channel. That let him capture scenes and effects that are like impossible for mere humans with visible light cameras. The whole thing, experience, it was like the Matrix where they kind of like plug you in the back of your head and they instantly teach you new skills. It really felt like that. Every hour I felt like I was learning something that was going to change the way that I worked from that point forward. Now, I know this channel has a lot of Nikon loyalists, but let me tell you, there's light out there regardless of what it says on top of your camera. I shoot with Nikon every day. I could easily shoot with a Sony every day. Also, when it comes to Nikon and the Z series, I think the tables have been turned a little bit. For so many years, Nikon and Canon led the way. And I think when it comes to mirrorless, to steal a phrase, the apprentice has become the master with the traditional brands working to catch up quickly to Sony. And whatever your thoughts are on that, I think we might be able to agree on one thing. In the end, that competition is all very good for us, the consumer of these cameras and the users. Members, head to that community tab here on YouTube or Patreon or the website, and I'll talk to you more about the very preventable mistake I made while shooting B-roll with this guy, and a little bit more about the daily life around 10 of your YouTube heroes. Thanks, everybody. I'll talk to you next week.
To see Raymond's weekly show for members in its entirety, click the join button below. If you don't see a join button, there's a link in the description. Then you'll see all of the member exclusive content in the community tab.